evening, everybody. Welcome to round 2 of the North American Grand Prix GT2 Championship, coming to you live from Watkins, Glen in New York. We've entered Quali 1, just underway, guys on their outlaps. But before we get any further, let me welcome my partner here tonight, Brad Maris. Brad, welcome to the show.
As always, a pleasure to be around here. Always a crowd favorite here, this Watkins Glen place, and I think the attendance has sure proven that out as well. So full packed house tonight here at the Glen, and it's going to be a good time. Going to be an interesting track, particularly when we start the race going into turn 1. That'll be one to watch.
Yeah, looking at about close to 40 runners here tonight. I know someone just dropped, but hopefully that's not a sign of things to come here, as we're on board with John Luden about to start a lap here in the Ferrari 458. Luden showing some pretty impressive times there in practice, leading the practice 2 as we headed over to qualifying here for tonight's event. Luden, the only guy in the 46s at the end of that session.
Yeah, very impressive times. Hard to say if those times were kind of in a quali setup here toward the end of that practice, but I guess we're going to find out pretty quickly here. Also, it should be mentioned, a couple BMWs right behind them there, Ryan Schleif and Dan Wilkerson as well, also showing some very fine practice times.
So as we continue to follow John Luden around, we are running the long version here of Watkins Glen. We've only run this circuit one other time in GT2, and that was the NASCAR layout. So it's the first time for these GT2 guys in this with this layout. Looking at 30 laps, maximum distance tonight, hour race. A lot of unknowns, some tire concerns for some guys, other guys not so much. I know, Brad, you had some quick laps out there. How did it feel for you?
Yeah, you know, it felt okay. I think tire issues could be a problem for some of the guys, though I have to say, after running 4 or 5, 6 recon laps, the tire wear wasn't quite as bad as I imagined it might be. Now, this is somewhat a new iteration, kind of a different rendition, as you might say, of this Watkins Glen track, as Aaron Parsons has posted the time. The times are rolling in, but I think that there should be good to go as long as it's not really incredibly hot. I think they should be okay.
Yeah, that's failed to mention. That's a good point. This is a different layout, as Luden posts the 3rd quickest time here. So David Poole jumps up to provisional pole. Ryan Schleif, also a guy who was showing some good pace here. He's up into that first chicane. He gets a bit out of shape there, so he's going to have to get back at it. Felipe Triano as well, who's looking pretty racy here in that sun red. Kevin Miller currently in the 10th position.
Yeah, as you follow Kevin Miller around and these times start to roll in, one guy that was not looking very sharp, it has to be said, in the week of practice was Alex White. Alex White a bit off the pace, however, I did see his practice times were a bit on the mend, so looking a little bit better. And Al, I just see that we possibly have a few raindrops in our future.
Yeah, as we follow Kurt Chandler around, the conditions do call for some wet stuff. Track is currently dry. However, that could change here as Chandler takes it off. David Rowley currently sitting in 12th in that Aston Martin. Right on the tail of one of the Ferraris. Looks like it's either David Poole or John Luden. Looking further down the order here, Andres Prieto finishing 3rd last week at the Open on Le Mans, carrying a little bit of success ballast in that comfort.
Yeah, sure didn't seem to slow Andres Prieto down much. Saw a few of his practice times last night. Didn't seem to slow him down too much. He was on the top of the timesheets and the kind of unofficial practice times there, Al.
Well, he's looking pretty good here. He's up in the 2nd sector, so let's follow him through the last few corners here, and as he closes out this lap, see where he ends up.
Yeah, and worth noting, as we do see that lap finish up, the times are tumbling, so time's coming down for everybody.
So Prieto to 4th. So David Poole continues to lead the session. Mike Trussler, wow. Trussler in the Mercedes, currently sitting 2nd. as we're on board with him. It's good to see Mike. Ooh, he's up big in the first sector. Let's jump on board with Mike.
Boy, those Mercedes have looked impressive here early this season, haven't they, Al?
Man, this will bode well for him. If he can get a good lap in, those skies are really starting to gray up. If this goes wet, all bets are off here in qualifying.
Yeah, that's right. These laps are the ones that are going to count. For sure, aren't going to get any better if the track goes wet.
25-minute qualifying session, got just over 18 minutes to go. We lost a little bit of time there in the middle. Last two corners here coming up for Tressler. So we do run the random weather mod here at in both Monday and Thursday night leagues. Track conditions can vary from time to time. No improvement from Tressler, so David Poole continues to lead. Alex Scott, Tressler's teammates, second and third. So both those guys showing good pace in that Mercedes. Prieto, we saw him. He jumped up to fourth on an out lap. So frantic start to this session, guys. All trying to get a lap in before before the rain comes, if and when it comes. So Alex White currently sitting fifth, last week's winner. Jonathan Cuppett in sixth. Go ahead, Brad.
Very frantic action also. Jonathan Cuppett was there in second about, 30 or 40 seconds ago, or a lap ago anyway. All of a sudden finds himself back in sixth, so the time's changing very quickly.
Now on board with Aaron Parsons, about to close out a lap. Finished second last week in the opener. Got a couple guys serving no calls for tonight's event. Chris Moses. And I forget who the other one was. So Parsons, no improvement, remains seventh. So John Luden unable to move up here in the timesheet after that impressive practice session. Looks like he just has yet to be able to put a lap together. He's on an old Joe LaCour, and it looks like Mascarelli had a coming together.
Yeah, for John Luden, you have to maybe assume at this point that he was on a low fuel run there at the end of that practice session. Or, as you say, just hasn't quite gotten a lap in. But that 46.3 by David Poole, I have to think, is a pretty impressive time.
So Felipe Triana in 11th. He's just starting a lap now in the Sunred, looking further back. Jaime Moore currently in 12th, Andres Prieto's teammate. So Jaime Moore looking to move up the timesheet here as he's about to close out this lap. Does he improve? He does not. Matt Taylor back in 13th. Montgomery Jr. sitting in 14th. See where Montgomery is after this first split. Ooh, he's up nearly half a second in Sector 1.
Boy, sure is, and I have to think that Salem should run pretty well around here. He has been showing very good pace, and his early practice times in the week of practice are actually pretty darn good as well, so this may be a lap we want to refer back to when he gets close to the line.
Washed out a little bit there in the chute.
I always get the corners mixed up, Al. I know they have something to do with the chute.
That's the toe. He just went through the toe. He's about to hit the heel now. Turn 8. Take a look at the track map here in a little bit.
Yeah, lost quite a bit of time there, but still in line to pick up a lot of positions here if he can hold on to in any amount of this lap.
Yeah, I actually missed his second split.
Yeah, 9/100ths above.
Montgomery to 11th. Wow, that is a lot of time lost.
Yeah.
So Miami Moore.
Well, he's good in the first sector.
You can see the traffic out there. Houston currently in 15th. Got a train of cars up ahead. About to start a lap. I don't. I never understood it. How are you going to set a time if you're up some guy's bumper about to start a lap?
Yeah, that's right.
But Houston does not improve. Wilkerson back in 16th. Quickly run down the order here. Halili running in 17th. Juan Monroy back in 18th. A little surprised to see Juan back there. Marty Uren in 19th. David Rowley sitting 20th. Got Kurt Chandler just ahead of him. Both guys on outlaps sitting 21st. Johnny Lugnut's 22nd. Ooh, he's only 0.08 of a second off in Sector 1. It looks like those Vipers are very good through through that first sector. Looks like Connor Swain may have had a lockup. So as we continue to follow Johnny here, loses a bunch of time there in the middle.
Yeah, the skies remain very dark, but temperature does continue to creep up, so that could be indicative of the rain holding off here for the next 11 and a half minutes. All that's left.
Oh, the rain has started to fall. I can see it, Brad.
Oh boy.
Just as you mentioned.
Oh boy.
Oh, you can hear it coming down. So let's see what Johnny can do here. He does not improve. David Poole may have secured his pole position. So it might just turn out to be a wet test session here at the end of qualifying.
Yeah, and that might not be such a bad thing. Now, right before it rains, the track does kind of get a little misty, and we didn't see really any improvement from anybody on those times there right before it started raining. So I suspect that might have been part of the problem in terms of that. But you're absolutely right. From this point on, it's not going to get any better. I think David Poole will hold on to this thing, and that would be a very fine result. After all, David Poole, a rather disappointing result, it has to be said, at Le Mans last week.
Yeah, so wow, what a qualifying session.
Very fast and furious, but I tell you, there's a bevy of drivers there in the 1:46 range, and then a whole bunch of others there in the 1:47 range. So times are very tight, despite this being nearly a 1:46, 47-second lap.
Yeah, you can see David Poole losing grip there, losing traction, and what a result for Trussler and Alex Scott. Ooh, yeah, these guys really struggling now as the track has gone to damp. So
yeah, it seemed to get damp. It seemed to get damp pretty quickly as well.
So it looks like it's going to be Poole, Trussler, Scott, and Prieto. Meanwhile, Alex White snuck into the top 5. Can't imagine any of these guys. You can see the spray coming up off the BMW of Cuffert, so can't imagine any of these guys improving on their time. In fact, it won't happen. So you can see that first sector there, he's nearly over a second off. So yeah, he's on slicks. He's
Yeah, but for those guys that were out there when the rain did start to fall, that continued around their laps, they're going to have a real good sense here of just how the track is going to react if they do get some of the wet stuff in the race. They'll have an idea of just how quickly the track will accumulate water and make it a little too dangerous to drive. It looks like it became pretty treacherous very quickly.
Yeah, so Luden, I think, kind of caught out there. He's back in 9th. Some other notable, Marty Uren way back in 19th.
Yeah, I'd have to say Ian Jolicoeur as well. It's not uncommon at all to see Ian Jolicoeur the last couple minutes of a qualifying session really pick up a bunch of spots. He didn't have the opportunity here tonight, however, so looks like it's going to be 10th for Ian.
Yeah, which, you know, considering where Marty's starting really isn't too bad. You would think the Porsches would be pretty good around here, but it doesn't look that way. Looks like the Mercedes team might have something up their sleeve. Meanwhile, David Poole really got that Ferrari dialed in here for qualifying.
Yeah, it sure does. And you know what? If the conditions do happen to end up being wet for this race, that's going to be a good car in the wet as well. So David Poole could be looking to be in pretty good shape here, along with the good dry pace, possibly good wet pace.
So we got a little lull in the action here while this rain is out. Let's take a quick look at the track map. So you see 11 corners. The first sector really is a bit dicey there. Turns 1 through 4, especially for the start of tonight's race. It's going to be interesting to see how the guys get through there in that inner loop. It's really a fun track to drive, in my opinion, but we've seen quite a bit of action here in the past, especially in GT1.
You know, it's kind of a technical track from the standpoint of it's very important to get your entry correct. So if you brake late going into any of these corners, particularly say like turn 1, but also turn 9, turn 8, also you can save the car a lot of times, but you are just going to lose a ton of ground. So very important to get the entry points right, make sure that you don't overdrive, and also really important not to brake too late to get into some of these fast corners.
Tell you what, it really didn't take long for this track to go wet. Full wet.
No, not at all, and there was an indication the temperature didn't suddenly drop. The forecast doesn't call for thunderstorms or anything like that, so that it's just kind of out there raining a little bit to come wet this quickly yeah, it's kind of surprising.
As we watch Ian, obviously on wet tires, really finessing his way through around here.
Now, I tell you, I'd like to see more guys out, actually. There's been a few guys that have really kind of parked it in the pits. I think I would definitely be using this as a test session and running as many laps as I could on different tire models and seeing what's what.
So Montgomery out there doing some wet laps. Felipe Triana as well. Well, you can see right there. It's mighty wet. So while we got some time here, we could talk about last week's race, Brad. Alex White taking the first win of the season, starting on pole. Parsons, Prieto. There's quite a battle there. We witnessed quite a battle in terms of pit strategy, it turned out.
Yeah, I'd say that's what won it for Alex White. He did not have the lap-to-lap pace, I would say, of the Aaron Parsons and Andres Prieto. Everybody behind them was kind of in a different class, so to speak. But among those three, Alex White definitely got the job done in terms of strategy, taking his fuel very deep and double stinting on that last stint for those tires. So the BMW E92 up to the task in terms of those strategic options, and it was a fair win. I mean, the best driver won for sure. Aaron Parsons, Andres Prieto, however, I don't think unsatisfied really with the start to their season there at second and third, so always a solid podium. My drive of the night has to go to Juan Monroy. Juan Monroy started that race there pretty much dead last and came all the way up to ninth. Yeah, so really great run for Juan Monroy and a really good race all throughout the field.
Well, you know, it could have been a three-way battle, actually. Montgomery Jr. was up in that fight, but turns out he had an off going into the pit lane, which cost him quite a bit of time. So that pretty much sealed the deal for him. Ended up finishing fourth. But, yeah, what could have been for Salem had he not made that mistake?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I had forgotten about that. I don't know that he had the outright pace of the top three, but he certainly would have been right in the mix. You're right. The smallest mistake from one of those guys in front would have allowed him to pick up at least a couple spots. So, yeah, that's a very good point.
So we got just under 3 minutes to go here in this qualifying session. It's David Poole, Mike Trussler, and Alex Scott. Your top three. Session started out dry, and then the rains came. Track is full wet right now, so no hot laps being set. It's pretty much decided at this point.
Yeah, now it's really started to come down, so
That's what
it'll get really bad.
That's what always makes this qualifying session interesting, especially when it starts dry like this and you see the rain potentially coming. That's when you see everybody heading out, all that frantic activity, and then vice versa. If it starts raining, then it tends to dry out, go damp. That's when you see the times really fall off.
Yeah, and it's so easy to overdrive there. The weather looks inclement, you know. To try to get that best lap in, very easy to push a little too hard and lose some time. And I suspect that's happened to a few of those guys in our field tonight.
So we see some guys struggling here in these conditions. As we just
well, I tell you,
spectate.
Sorry, Al. Yeah, I suspect that a lot of these guys are not running a whole lot of downforce. Those rear wings have probably been taken down quite a bit to help them get through some of these high-speed sweepers. There's some medium-speed corners as well, but in general, less aero is going to be more beneficial than more around this place in general. So probably low downforce, and it might have to make some suspension adjustments, or at least be prepared to make should this race go a little. If we start with the wet stuff.
Well, after last week's first round, it's a quick rundown of the driver's standings heading into tonight's round two. Alex White with the win and the pole from the... I just crashed, I think. You win there, Brad?